5:11 local. The sea is still dark, and the first light over the Strait of Hormuz is only a thin orange line on the horizon when the radar operator aboard the lead destroyer sees the first cluster break out of haze. 12 fast surface contacts. North side of the shipping lane. High speed, tight spacing. They are coming out of Iranian coastal waters and angling down toward a convoy of outbound oil tankers moving south for the Gulf of Oman. On the bridge, nobody panics. In Combat Information Center, the picture goes from busy to dangerous in seconds. The convoy is already under pressure before anyone says it out loud. Heavy tanker traffic fills the narrow corridor. Civilian ships are stacked inside the lane, long dark hulls pushing south in calm water with limited room to move. The Escort group is built for this. A U.S. Navy destroyer holds a screen. Another ship watches the wider picture, and the tankers stay in column. But the geometry is changing. The contacts are not drifting. They are shaping space. That matters. By the time the first report reaches the captain, the count is already moving. 12 becomes 17, then 23, then 29. The radar scope glows green and amber in the dark sea icy as new tracks bloom across the northern edge of the screen. Speed is high. Course lines are clean. This is not random traffic. These boats are moving with purpose, coming out in groups, then spreading. A tactical action officer leans over the console, watches the vectors separate, and says a thing everyone in the room already knows. This is deliberate. On the bridge, the destroyer keeps steady course. The windows are gray with pre-dawn haze. The sea is smooth enough that every wake line shows. Ahead, the silhouettes of the tankers rise like black buildings in the water. They are large, slow, and heavy. They cannot just turn out of danger. That is the problem. In the strait, room is limited. The lanes are narrow. A fast attack craft can dart across a bow in seconds. A loaded tanker needs far more sea than that to do anything at all. The first bridge-to-bridge warning goes out calm and clear. Unidentified Iranian military vessels. This is United States warship on international transit escort. You are approaching a protected commercial formation. Alter course immediately. Maintain safe separation. The radio speaker hisses. Then silence. Still no reply. In CIC, the threat picture sharpens again. Contact count climbs toward 40. Some of the boats are now splitting west and south into distinct groups. One set runs toward the destroyer's forward quarter, forcing attention toward the warship. Another set slides lower and wider, aiming at the civilian tankers from the outside. It is a classic pressure move. Pull the escort one way, expose the merchant line another. They are forcing decisions. That changes everything. Aboard the lead tanker, the master sees them through haze and glares low, dark shapes cutting fast over flat water. White spray climbs off their bows. One of them crosses less than 500 meters ahead, close enough to throw wake under the tanker's nose. The horn sounds long and deep across the morning. Engine settings come back. Emergency reduction. The entire convoy begins to compress. That is when the problem gets worse. The Iranian boats are not just closing. They are organizing. 3 groups fan out around the convoy. One moves parallel to the port side of the lead tanker. One presses from the north against the destroyer's coverage angle. A third group stays slightly back, holding room like a reserve. Through binoculars from the bridge wing, lookouts report missile rails on several hulls. Others carry heavy machine guns. One appears to have a rocket launcher mounted low behind the wheelhouse. These are not patrol craft out of line. These are swarm boats built to crowd, split, isolate, and, if ordered, strike. In the CIC, the watch team shifts immediately into high-threat posture. Electronic warfare comes alive. Close-in defense systems are set to higher readiness. Surface tracks are tagged and sorted as quickly as they appear. The destroyer spy. One radar is excellent, but this is not the kind of fight where one clean picture solves the problem. Nearly 40 fast-moving small contacts in a narrow shipping corridor can overload defensive calculations fast. Bearings cross. Wake lines overlap. Friendly hulls and hostile hulls compress into the same narrow slice of water. No one raises their voice. They react with precision. The second warning goes out. Iranian military craft. You are creating unsafe conditions for commercial shipping. Break off now. Acknowledge on this frequency. Again, there is only static. Then a clipped burst of interference rolls over the channel and dies. Navigation data on one tanker flickers. A bridge repeater on the destroyer shows a momentary jump before hardened systems reroute the feed. The jamming is weak, but it is there. It does not have to be strong. It only has to add friction. Back on the bridge, the captain studies the tanker line and the contacts beyond it. He knows what the Iranian crews are trying to do. If they can force one tanker out of line, the whole formation opens. If they can pull the Escort into collision avoidance, the screen breaks. If they can isolate the lead merchant ship from the destroyer's guns, sensors, and helicopter, they can turn pressure into leverage very fast. No one says missile threshold yet, but everyone in the room is thinking about it. The order goes out to launch the MH-60 Seahawk. On the flight deck, rotor wash tears across the non-skid and kicks salt spray into the dawn air. Crew helmets flash under deck lights. Chocks come away. The helicopter lifts clean, nose low, and turns toward the swarm. From above, the problem looks even worse. The strait is full of traffic, steel, glare, and wake. The convoy is trying to hold shape, while fast craft carve across its edges. The Seahawk crew starts calling contacts by position and behavior. Painting the picture the radar cannot fully explain. Thermal video confirms what the bridge lookout suspect. Missile rails on multiple boats. Heat signatures packed into the engine compartments. Weapons mounts uncovered. One boat carries what looks like anti-ship missiles slung along the sides. Another has a rocket rack behind the bow shield. The helicopter crew sends a feedback to the destroyer in real time. In CIC, faces turn toward the screen for one quick look, then back to their own stations. Identity confirmation. That matters. Then the first real tactical split appears. A cluster of Iranian boats peels hard right and drives straight for the lead tanker's path, while a second cluster rushes the destroyer's side, not to attack yet, but to hold the warship's attention and keep its guns divided. It is smart. It is timed. It is built to compress the American response window. This is not random harassment. This is rehearsal for a blockade geometry inside one of the most important shipping lanes on Earth. Farther north, deeper inside the Gulf, new contacts start emerging from hidden coastal inlets. Smaller at first, then clearer, additional fast craft. The count is now pushing the high 30s. One analyst at a regional command center compares the pattern to previous IRGC swarm drills. Another sends a note higher. Pentagon and CENTCOM are monitoring in real time now. That adds weight, but it does not change the water in front of the convoy. The ship still has to solve the next 2 minutes first. The sky is lightening. Dawn turns the haze orange and gray. From the bridge glass, the water looks almost calm, which only makes the speed of the small boats feel more dangerous. They flash across the bows of tankers, throwing white spray. Civilian captains sound horns and pull speed back again. Now the convoy is slower, tighter, and more exposed. The geometry tightens. A radar operator calls out a new emission. Short, sharp, one of the Iranian patrol craft has briefly lit a targeting radar toward the destroyer. It is not a lock held for long, but it is enough. In the destroyer's skin, CIWS mounts rotate toward the sector with a hard mechanical turn. That sound carries through the ship like a message. The line is close. On the bridge, warning shots are discussed and then delayed. Not rejected, delayed. Because once a shot is fired here in this lane, with this many tankers and this much political weight in the water, the event changes shape instantly. Control matters more than noise. Restraint matters because it preserves the next option. No one panics. The destroyer holds course and holds fire. Then one of the tankers nearly collides. An Iranian patrol craft slices across the tanker's bow at high speed and too close, forcing the civilian ship to reduce again. Engines shudder through the hull. The tanker's horn blasts once more, long and angry, while deck crews stare down from the rail at a dark fast boat skipping over the swells below. The small craft is so close that its wake slaps hard against the tanker's bulbous bow. For a second, it looks like steel and fiberglass are about to meet. Then the patrol craft kicks out, turns hard, and vanishes behind spray. The convoy does not break. But now everyone sees how near the line really is. That is when the request for air support becomes a demand. Not because the destroyer is losing. It is not. The ship still has the picture. It still has weapons. It still has room to respond. But the attack profile is growing layers. Surface swarm, electronic interference, merchant compression, possible blockade rehearsal, additional craft leaving the coast, larger Iranian naval assets reported farther north near Bandar Abbas. This is no longer a local pressure event. It may be the front edge of something bigger. Carrier support is ordered in. On the nearby carrier, emergency launch status turns into motion. Flight deck crews move with a fast, flat rhythm of people who have done this in darkness and heat more times than anyone watching will ever see. Super Hornets are already armed. Pilots climb in. Canopies come down. Engine whine rises into a hard metallic growl that rolls across the deck. The catapults are set. Yellow shirts point. White shirts check. Final signals. No drama. Just launch rhythm. This is what the platform was built to do. Back over the water. The Seahawk reports another detail. Some of the Iranian boats are not just crowding the convoy. They are testing crossing points and spacing, as if measuring how quickly commercial traffic can be cut into separate pieces. That matters. Intelligence officers hearing the report start connecting it to earlier swarm and blockade exercises. If that is what this is, then the boats below are not only threatening one escort group, they are practicing how to squeeze Hormuz itself. Still no reply on the radio. The destroyer sends another warning, sharper now. Iranian vessels, you are endangering commercial shipping and approaching U.S. naval units in an unsafe manner. Alter course immediately. Maintain separation. Failure to comply will result in defensive action. This time, one of the small boats answers with engine noise and a turn that brings it even closer to the convoy's flank. That is the answer it chooses. In CIC, the tactical plot looks almost crowded enough to blur. The operators keep sorting. Surface tracks. Air tracks, helicopter feed, electronic interference notes, merchant positions, speed changes, gun arcs. Every layer must stay clear, because if the first weapon appears, seconds will matter. The good ships survive this kind of moment because the people inside them do not chase every alarm. They keep the picture clean. They keep moving from problem to problem. They react with precision. 7 minutes after the escalation alert, the first Super Hornets launch. The sound arrives before the jets do. Far to the south, beyond the tanker line and low over the water, twin afterburners punch orange into the brightening sky. Then two dark shapes grow fast and hard, nose down, moving with that flat, violent speed carrier aircraft have over open water. In the cockpits, pilots are already receiving the full picture. Surface contacts, threat sectors, friendly formation, rules, warning sent, radar emissions noted, civilian ships compress inside the lane. This is not a mystery anymore. It is an intercept. They come in high enough to see the field, low enough to be seen. That is deliberate. From the Iranian boats below, the change is immediate. The swarm that has been pressing inward for the last several minutes suddenly has to think upward. The first Hornet pair crosses overhead in a fast intimidation pass, close enough to throw shadow and engine thunder across the boats. Spray kicks sideways. Some crews look up. Others hold course for one more second too long. Then spacing begins to open. That changes everything. The destroyer and the fighters start working one problem from two directions. The ship keeps the surface picture stable. The jets own the vertical space above the swarm. The helicopter keeps feeding confirmation. The convoy stays moving. No wild maneuver. No break in formation. No confused surge of fire. Just controlled pressure from every layer. This is not revenge. This is control. A second pair of Super Hornet arrives and takes the outer arc. Now the Iranian boats are no longer shaping the whole space. They are being watched across it. Low-angle runs by the fighters show missile rails, deck mounts, and wake patterns clearly. One Hornet holds offset and tracks a cluster that had been trying to isolate the lead tanker. Another watches the group that flashed radar at the destroyer. Armed aircraft above, warship below, merchant traffic in motion. The trap they tried to build is starting to break. Farther north, surveillance picks up larger Iranian naval units near Bandar Abbas, not moving south yet, not joining the contact, but present, watching, ready perhaps. U.S. commanders do not treat that lightly. For a moment, the possibility hangs over the whole scene that this close-pressure event may be the opening move in a wider Gulf escalation. That is why the fighters stay armed. That is why the destroyer keeps every system ready. That is why no one relaxes just because the boats below are opening their spacing. The Iranian formation tries one last pressure move. Several craft surge forward together in a crossing pattern just ahead of the convoy, hoping to force another slowdown and show they can still touch the lane whenever they want. But the timing is off now. The Hornets are overhead. The Seahawk is calling every turn. The destroyer has a geometry. The boats are no longer hunting inside uncertainty. They are moving under a fixed stare. One Super Hornet drops lower, fast enough to shake spray off the surface with its wake. It does not fire. It does not need to. The message is in the angle, the speed, the calm way it rolls back up in circles for another pass. The U.S. has not lost a picture. The Escorts never lost a picture. That is the point. Then the break starts. It does not happen all at once. A few Iranian boats widen first. Then two more peel away north. Another pair stops crossing the tanker bows and falls back into line astern. The group that had been pressing the destroyer turns out and creates more water. The spacing is subtle at first, but unmistakable. The swarm is giving up compression. Once that happens, it loses initiative. Once it loses initiative, the whole event changes shape, from the bridge of the lead destroyer. The difference is visible through binoculars as clean lines of wake begin bending back toward the coast. The danger is still real. Weapons are still pointed. Systems are still hot. But now the American side is dictating pace. The tankers begin to rebuild their interval. Engine settings come up. Horn stops sounding. The convoy settles back into motion. The ship keeps moving. The helicopter crew tracks several boats disappearing toward concealed coastal facilities and dark cuts in the shoreline that look like tunnel entrances or covered slips. Others head for shallow water where large hulls cannot follow. That is familiar too. The boats came out with planning. They leave with discipline. They are serious. They are dangerous. But the attack profile has failed. In the cockpit of a Super Hornet turning above the strait, the scene below is simple now. Long merchant hulls are sliding south in column. U.S. escort ships are still in position. Iranian boats are opening distance instead of closing it. Dawn is fully up, and orange light is laying over the water, where the pressure point had been only minutes earlier. No missile launch, no gunfire, no burning wrecks. Just a clear answer written in movement and control. The enemy came in hunting. Now they're falling back. That does not make the morning safe. It makes it instructive. The formation the Iranian boats use looks too organized to dismiss. The crossing patterns are too specific. The pressure on civilian shipping is too deliberate. The extra contact from hidden inlets matter. The larger assets farther north matter. The brief radar illumination matters. This feels less like random harassment and more like a live rehearsal under real traffic conditions, with real tankers, real escorts, and a real chance of one mistake triggering something much bigger. But the one clear point still stands. The U.S. formation never breaks. The convoy is not isolated. The destroyers do not lose the screen. The fighters arrive fast enough to reset the whole geometry. The swarm fails to trap the escort. It fails to cut the lane. It fails to force the tankers into chaos. The attack has failed. By the time the last of the small boats fades back into the northern haze, the convoy is already entering the wider water toward the Gulf of Oman. The destroyer stays at combat posture. The Hornets remain overhead. Controllers continue tracking every return that still moves near the coast. Nobody on the U.S. side treats the withdrawal as the end of the problem. In Hormuz, the next contact can appear fast, and the next confrontation may move even quicker than this one. Still, for this morning, the result is clear. The pressure was real. The threat was smart. The geometry was dangerous. But the ships kept moving. The formation stayed intact, and when the sky filled with American fighters, the water below belonged to them again. So here's the question. Was this restraint or total sea control under pressure? Drop your take in the comments.